Watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Die.
Yes, sir. Welcome back to another episode of Trap or Die Podcast. I am your host, Mual. Jamal Forrest, AJ's on the way. Dre is on the way. Fellas, I see y'all in the chat. But before we get into the show, let's get the administrative items out of the way, man. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you are new on YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, we definitely appreciate that. If you on the Twitch side, man, same thing. Hit that follow button, man. Show some love on that side as well. I'm trying to get back into the groove of things over there. Audio side. If you are new to the podcast, you like what you're hearing, man, hit that follow button. Give us a rating and review if you can, man. It's appreciated. And it helps us keep up with some of the bigger platforms out there, but also it's free to do so to support, and you know what I'm saying, it takes you 2 seconds to do it as well. Another administrative item, because I see All to Another World talking about Drake May. Let's get some of the comments going. There is one more film session coming out. Now, I know it's been like 2 weeks since the last one. So, busy work, right? What can you do about it? But the last film session of Drake May will be releasing, today's Wednesday, tomorrow, if not Friday. But it's definitely getting edited right now. We're going to go ahead and get that published as soon as things are on the ready. So yeah, that'll be out soon, and you'll have a complete profile of Drake May out. I will write a profile on Hogs Haven shortly after that. What's up, Will? Also Another World, what's up? Brian, I see you. What's up? Jayden the DC, I see the hashtag. Also Another World said JD versus Caleb Williams. Ain't no such thing as Drake May versus Caleb Williams. Yeah, man, today's been interesting. Let me see. I think AJ. Well, AJ, let me know if you're ready, because I can't tell. But let me get started, because it's been interesting today. Like, I've been very adamant. Dakota, move your ass before you cut off the computer, bro. I've been very intentional. I say adamant. I've been very intentional on not I have a preference, right? I prefer Jayden Daniels. Prefer Jayden Daniels over Drake May. Oh wait, I see. Oh, he is ready. All right, bet. Here we go. Oh, I put the wrong one up there. All right. So I've been very intentional with not being overly opinionated on any of the quarterbacks. I do admittedly defend Jayden Daniels more. And I think today, if you have been on social media, has been um it's been pretty loud in terms of like the naysayers and even the I guess the people who are all for him. I don't know. Um Also, if you are on YouTube, by the way, open show. I don't we don't plan on we don't have a lot of things to talk about. We have some things to talk about, but open show. So however long those callers, take us is however long the show will go. But we have a few things to discuss. Jayden Daniels Pro Day, JJ McCarthy, and then maybe some comments from Dan Quinn. He said some things about Emmanuel Forbes a couple of days ago, which is pretty interesting in itself. But I've been very intentional on like not necessarily having my opinion out there on like um being negative in a sense. Like I have like the pros and cons about these guys. But I think like when you hear people talk about Jayden, I think it's louder. Now I may be in a bubble, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I may be in a bubble where I only hear the negativity about Jayden a little bit louder than I hear about other quarterbacks. I'm not sure because I hear Caleb Williams' negativity just as loud, and his biggest knock from people on social media is that he's a diva and all those other things. So maybe I'm not tripping, but that's the reason why I defend Jayden Daniels so much. But I found it weird. Like on the pro day, I seen like a couple clips and couple comments of people saying this is one of the worst pro days they've ever seen. Um, he only weighed 210 because he was intentionally trying to gain weight, and which is why he skipped the combine. That part may be true, right? But at the end of the day, if y'all were knocking him before he weighed in, I mean, before the opportunity to weigh in the combine happened, why are we even like discrediting him for coming in at 210? The expectation was he gonna come in under 200. So 6'3", 210 was his official pro day numbers. And I'll go ahead and get AJ the floor right quick because I know he just checked in. Again, this is an open show, so if you all want to call in, go to the YouTube link. And whatever it is that you want to get off your chest, you can. I got to do a better job of. I mean, y'all got the floor. Like we'll have a conversation, but I got to put a time limit on it. I got to do a better job of that. But definitely call in, man. Get things off your chest. Talk some ball with the fellas on Shop and Dive. AJ, what's going on with you, player? How you feeling?
Cooler, man. And I got you on that, man. I definitely use myself as a wrap it up button. Be like, wrap it up, B. But at the end of the day, man, yeah, I just think the conversation overall is exactly what the NFL wants. That's why it's such of a big time lapse in between the Super Bowl and when the draft period happens. They want people to be intrigued in this reality TV show because essentially that's what it is. It's guys with all the hopes in the world of being successful and being in the best situation to be able to put their families in situations of financial generational wealth in a sense, and you not knowing exactly where you're gonna go. Like, I mean, just imagine if that's you. You have no clue if you're gonna be living in Atlanta, Nashville, LA,
Yeah.
Wisconsin, or Washington D.C. You just don't know. And I'm not really quite sure if we have a consensus number one like we have been accustomed to in the past years. But I mean, you're not really gonna learn that much from a pro day. The most important thing of a pro day for executives and representatives and even the players is the meetings that you can have while you're there with the teams, or you can meet with the school officials, student body, teammates, positional coaches. The following day, you can have dinner. Like those are the different nuances that you're really going to be able to pick up on from these pro days that you don't get to see within, the TV broadcast, whether it be on NFL Plus, SEC Network, ACC Network. Like those are the main nuances because you know what these guys can do. You're not going to learn that much from a guy throwing the football or running routes against nobody. Yeah, I just think even with the Jayden Daniels and Drake May thing, I just feel like everything has like a racial undertone in that
Mario said that
battle.
too.
Yeah, I said it probably about a month or two ago. Like it just gives off like Larry Bird, Magic Johnson vibes in a sense of that regard. And then with Caleb Williams, a lot of people trying to test his sexuality and his behavior with the painted nails, now pink cell phone case or whatever, purse, whatever they want to say. At the end of the day, none of that stuff matters. You just rely on the film. And another thing with Jayden Daniels pro day, man, I don't care about no other grown man's weight. The only person's weight I'm concerned about is my damn own. Like, it does not matter if Jayden Daniels is 185, 230, whatever. It's about what he can do when he's on the field. I mean, we don't just go around wondering what quarterbacks' weights are all day and every day.
That's
It's
my
guys that,
thing. Because I just want
yeah,
to pause right there for a second, because that's my thing. Like, when somebody else said, like even when the numbers came out 6'3", 210, I made a quote tweet on that, and somebody said, yeah, it's not his pro day weight that I'm concerned about. It's his weight on game days. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, nigga, when have we ever thought about somebody's weight when the regular season came around, or even when the game started? Like, I think the only time that it's ever been like a noticeable question or conversation has been this year with Emmanuel Forbes, and that was just about his inability or his hesitancy to get dirty in the run game. Like, you visibly seen it. And that's the only time I ever in recent years, AJ, have been thinking about somebody's frame. But a quarterback, bro, even another position, like, we're about to have Austin Eckler on it. Well, I mean, it's not a good. He's like 200 pounds. There's been smaller backs, but you get my point. Like, smaller people or lighter frames have been around, bro, and they can survive in the league. Like Jayden Daniels, bro. If you're in the league and the regular season comes around and you're playing and you're not getting hurt, and then over the course of your career you get hurt, but you're not consistently like hurt. Like, you have those injury dings here and there, like a normal wear and tear on the NFL season. Like, it ain't shit to talk about.
yeah. I mean, football's a physical sport in general. So, no matter what you weigh, you're at risk of getting hurt. You could be Anthony Richardson, who's 6'5", 245, and still get hurt within the pocket or outside of the pocket. Peyton Manning is a bigger quarterback. He got hurt inside the pocket. Like, it's just football. Like, that's just the nuance of it. It'd be different if maybe he experienced a bunch of injuries or whatever, and you could have your concerns with that as far as his medical history and what the projections are as far as like arthritis and tendonitis and all those different things. But this is a guy that has played, if people want to count it, 5 years, I guess, of college football, and has suffered no major injury. Like, even
It's a
even
lot of
with
snaps.
even with the aggressive nature of running in between tackles or jumping up mid tackle, he still hasn't got hurt. So it's like, you know, God is on his side as far as like staying healthy. But the reality is, no matter who you take at any position, they're at risk of getting hurt. Like, you can tear your Achilles while you practicing against nobody. Like, you could just be running, you could just be walking and tear your Achilles. That don't have nothing to do with your size. I just think right now what's going on, man, people are just trying to touch on so many different things, whether it be Jayden Daniels with the data and the throw map points or whatever, not throwing across the middle of the field. Drake May, more so he's not really getting as criticized as much, especially from the national media. He's more so getting pushed in the threshold is like, oh, well, he didn't have that much talent to play with in 2023. Look at the difference in 2022. And yeah, he's a fuck up, but he has so much upside. Like, that's essentially what they're doing to one guy. And then even with JJ McCarthy, it's like, oh, the offense at Michigan didn't really ask him to throw the ball. So it's okay he didn't throw for a whole second half. Like, it's just they create different narratives that they want to, and it is what it is, man. Just glad that the draft is about to be here in a month.
Here's one thing, and Andre, get you on the Jayden Daniels day. But AJ just said it to me, and I think that was kind of how I was trying to phrase it. And you kind of hinted to it. Like, the criticism with Drake May has a lot to do with, like, the pros and cons has a lot to do with him playing on the field. And I think Jayden's criticism, his pros and cons, has a lot to do with, mainly his cons has a lot to do with like who he is. Like, He's a lighter quarterback, so he's not going to survive in the NFL. What's one thing, like, he runs too much. I mean, like, I've never seen a person who is like made so many explosive plays on the ground get criticized because he runs too much. Like, he's a creator on the ground. How is that a negative? And those are the two main things. Yes, the conversation, I'm not going to ignore the fact that they do talk about him, his lack of throws over the middle and the intermediate level. That's something that people talk about, but the louder conversations have to do with, like, some of the most irrelevant things. Like, and when it comes to Drake, it's all about on the field, like where he struggles or what he does best. But Dre just checked in for those who are listening to the podcast. Dre, what up, player? How you feeling? And then let us know what you're thinking about Jayden and Jayden's day.
Yeah, man, I'm here. I'm happy to be here. But yeah, again, we talked about this last week with the pro days. I mean, the pro days don't do much for me, man. I'm sorry, because it's like, what do you learn differently about this guy today that you didn't see on the game tape? I mean, however, he looked out, and I guess in my opinion, he looked like how he should look. I mean, I know some people say he missed a couple throws, but who won't miss a couple of throws in 55 throws? I mean, it was good to see him do a lot of things, especially the weigh-in. We had talked about this earlier. It's more for optics in a sense, because if you see 6'4", 210, a lot of people, that's frail, but you see 6'3", 210, and people are like, okay, so that's not too bad. And then, like I told you all earlier, he could put on 10 pounds within his first year or two and get the 6'3", 220, and you're not even, batting an eye or something like that. Now, AJ, I got to push back on you a little bit. You did something that a lot of people on, X or Twitter or whatever it is have been doing lately, and that's saying that one guy is getting treated more unfairly than the other guy, when I'm on the objective side, because I'll be fine with any of these guys. It's happening on both sides. Even in the national
I
media,
asked that question before both of y'all
Yeah.
got on. I was like, because I didn't know if I was tripping. I was like, it seems like the criticism for Jayden and Caleb was louder than it was for Drake. But I'm also like a person, I don't go too far in any of that. But go ahead, Dre. So you said that you think it's on both sides.
Yeah, because even with Merrill Hodge, he was talking about Caleb Williams, but in that same breath, he was saying he wouldn't even touch Drake May in the first round. And he's not even like the only national guy that's kind of had that opinion. I mean, we've seen multiple guys say Drake May, he would have to sit if he gets here. And you got people looking at him saying, man, he's wildly erratic. Now, there are people who like him. And then there's people that like Jayden Daniels. I mean, I've seen Dan Orlovsky go on TV last week and say he could rival Caleb Williams for the number one quarterback in this draft. I mean, he's not the only national guy that's kind of had that opinion about Jayden Daniels. So that's the whole thing about this draft. I mean, you have three, and now, there's, with the JJ McCarthy conversation, there's 4 guys in the conversation for, one of the top 4 to 5 picks in this draft. So what you're doing is, not you, AJ, but just anybody in particular, people are kind of picking their guy out of these guys, and they're saying, hey, I like this guy. And then you're looking for everything wrong with the next guy, when you can just sit back and be like, man, we are in a good position right now, because we are in a position to choose somebody that they really like, that other teams behind them would love to move up for. That's why we've been seeing the conversations about the trade up, or people wanting to get up into the top 5 to get one of these guys. And we are in prime position outside of the Bears. Obviously, they're going to go Caleb Williams. That's 100% guaranteed if you ask me. But now we're in a position where we have a choice between 3 guys that a lot of teams will love to move up for. And I'm trusting Adam Peters and the rest of everybody that they've employed, because they're going to watch way more film than we can ever imagine. None of us are going to watch as much film as those guys watch, and on top of that, they get their interview and get to sit down with these guys. So they're going to come to a decision that I'm going to have to trust. Now, I'll have plenty of time to be angry and complain if it don't work out, but right now I'm kind of sitting back in cruise control, like, man, we're walking out of this with somebody to groom as a franchise quarterback, and that excites me. I mean, and if it's Jayden Daniels, I would love it, man. Because I mean, I was like, remember Mual, AJ, during the season, I was like, man, Jayden Daniels is a guy, man.
Yeah.
I think y'all should start looking at him, man. Like, so I would love to walk out this draft with Jayden Daniels. So yeah, I mean, I think we're in good position, man.
Yeah, I'll say you was the reason why I started, man. So Chris checked in earlier, and before we move off of Jayden, it's the last thing. He asked if we can kind of talk about Jayden and Cliff Kingsbury's offense. Do we have an idea what that looks like? I'll start and just acknowledge like his processing ability. I don't think that it's like on Joe Burrow level when he came out, but I think over the years, now granted, I've only seen his LSU years that I've been looking into in particular, but people who've been following his entire career from the Arizona State days, they've seen his processing ability like develop over time, right? And like got to the point in which it was. And I think that's worth noting. And I think his ability to process post and pre-snap, or I said it the opposite way, but pre and post snap, I think is good for him. But I also think that like when I hear like about Cliff's offense, I know he runs gun a lot, but at the same time, I think he can hit all three levels, and I don't think that there's not a throw in Cliff's offense that he can't make. I don't know how they'll like, because he doesn't use motion a lot, so that was one of the conversations we had when we first got him on here. I got to figure out how they do the keys for the quarterback. I'm not too sure. I'm pretty sure it may be safety related. But I'm not too sure. I haven't really studied Cliff's offense. I've been knee deep into the draft prospects. But when I do come around on that, I think the point in which I'm going is that he can make all the throws. And he's shown that he can develop as a processor, and he's good enough coming into the NFL now. So I think that he can only get better with time in Cliff's offense. So that'll be interesting. I don't even have to mention the legs part, like that's a given. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think that's what's going to open up the offense even more as a rookie in his first year. So that's kind of what I got right now. I'll know a little bit more once I can study Cliff's offense in detail. And then one thing for Hawk, since he came in, showed some love, man. What's going on, Hawk? Hawk donated $20, man. Good people, were on the precipice of witness history. There's a high probability in consecutive drafts where the first two quarterbacks happen to be black. Let that sink in, and know that folks want to stop progress. Hey, man, Hog, appreciate the donation. Always showing love. You are one of the OG trappers, bro. So appreciate you always showing love. Appreciate the people who do show love to the channel, man. Show some support. Fellas, what you think about Chris, and what you think about his question about Jayden Daniels and Cliff's offense?
I mean, I think with Cliff Kingsbury's offense is going to be spread. It's going to be air raid. Unless he's changed in the time off from being the head coach and the play caller of the Arizona Cardinals, is going to be pretty straightforward for a quarterback. Essentially, the reason of the spread is to get guys on one-on-one matchups to be able to run option routes and things of that nature, but not all the time will things go as planned, and you need someone that can be able to create on the fly. And I think that fits well within Jayden Daniels' portfolio. He can make something happen when nothing is there. That's why I think like the two most intriguing guys to mesh up with this play caller is Caleb Williams and Jayden Daniels. They handle chaos much better than the other quarterbacks within their class. So that's where I see it fitting. I just think that Kingsbury, he needs to adjust his offense a bit more and not be as predictable and provide some flexibility to the wide receivers as far as moving them around and things of that nature. But I think that it's quarterback friendly for the most part. So anyone can really play quarterback in the system. It's more so how will you handle chaos when things break down, and that's where a lot of these guys are starting to get more kudos and bonus points for in the draft process at the quarterback position. And I think that's why it's making it also challenging for some evaluators that have been doing this for a long time, adjusting to the new day and age type of quarterback. And that's why, some guys get the prototypical archetype on them, is because that's what they're accustomed to. They're not necessarily accustomed to evaluating guys like a Lamar Jackson, a Caleb Williams, a Josh Allen, Anthony Richardson. They're not used to those type of guys.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm still hesitant to kind of try to predict Cliff Kingsbury and say he's going to come in and run, heavy air raid, kind of what you've seen him do in college. I do know that he adjusted it a bit at Arizona. Like, he wasn't running full on air raid. He made some adjustments. So it's even hard to kind of go back and look at his years in Arizona and kind of project that that's what he's going to do here in Washington, because now you got a lot of cooks in the kitchen now. You got Brian Johnson. He's the offensive pass game coordinator. Anthony Lynn's the run game coordinator. And then, he got his quarterback coaches, Tavita Pritchard. So I believe everybody's going to have some kind of hand, kind of designing or, crafting this offense of what it's going to look like. So I think if you draft a guy like Jayden Daniels, we may not see what Cliff has kind of necessarily ran in the past. I think you might get something similar to 2012 when, not to compare him to RG3. That's not what I'm doing here. But in 2012, people were looking at Kyle Shanahan's past offenses and saying, man, he's going to run, that. And how is RG3 going to fit into that? But when you got to 2012, you've seen Kyle Shanahan run something that he had never ran before. So I think that's something you got to probably keep an eye out for with Cliff Kingsbury and all of the members that they brought onto this offensive staff to build this offense, that you may see some things that, that's outside of his familiarity or outside of what is his normal comfort zone, which you normally seen him run. So, I think, he's probably going to run something similar to what Jayden kind of has seen in college, something that's more to his strengths if he's the guy. So you may not just be throwing him into, what you may think is the air raid offense or what is a traditional air raid offense. You may see him doing something a little bit different. But I do expect Cliff to kind of stay somewhat similar to whatever his roots are. But I do think that they're going to craft something to this guy's strength, because he's not the only one that's crafting this offense at the moment.
Fellas, transitioning here. I don't remember who said this over the weekend. I was locked in on losing all my fucking bets in March Madness this weekend.
Yeah, the bad weekend, bro.
Bad week. It started off good, and then it went to shit. It started off really good during the conference tournament games, and even like the first day or two of the tournament, and then whatever, bro. Oh man, bro, I lost my. I'm out. I'm out, bro. I'm out. I'm out until maybe until like the Final Four or Elite Eight or something like that, or maybe just NBA playoffs or something, or maybe the XFL or UFL, whatever that starts this weekend. But I may give it.
Well, MLB, man, MLB is this week.
Maybe MLB, something, man, something. But over the weekend, there was a conversation, and maybe you all know a little bit better and can kind of like correct what I'm saying here. But there was a conversation and a report from somebody on ESPN or NFL where they mentioned that JJ McCarthy was a real consideration from the Commanders or for the Commanders. I'm gonna look for the report after I give the floor to you all. But there was a conversation or a tweet out there that suggested that. Now, that's not saying that they're going to pick them. We all know that. Let's preface this conversation by acknowledging that like nobody knows what they're actually going to do at number 2. But my question to you all is, like, to what level are we underestimating or undervaluing the conversation that they actually may be thinking about JJ McCarthy and they like JJ McCarthy? I think that's worth talking about a little bit.
Yeah, I think I will say with Drake May and JJ McCarthy, their size of representation are doing a great job of marketing their client through the TV media personalities and networks. I put out a tweet out there earlier this week, but both guys are represented by the biggest agencies in entertainment overall. So not even just sports. Like these agencies represent the Tom Cruise, the Oprah Winfrey's, the Will Smiths of the world. They essentially control what you watch on TV each and every day in all type of programming. So it's easy for them to use their leverage to market these guys. I think what is going on is JJ McCarthy is trying to get pushed up into the draft of being a first round pick, and not just only a first round pick, but potentially a top 10 pick, to make it seem as though teams have like this significant interest in him, even up as high as number 2. You feel me? Like if he was really in consideration of being one of those top quarterbacks, I also think the Chicago Bears would be mentioned with him too, right? Like they need a quarterback. I just think that Washington is doing their due diligence just like they did with all the coaches that they interviewed with every quarterback. But I don't see it as a real chance that JJ McCarthy is going to be the number 2 pick overall. I think if they possibly were running a different offensive scheme, maybe he might be in consideration. But if you're going into the spread, that's not typically the guy that you would want running that spread offense. I think JJ McCarthy can play. I'm not gonna sit here and call him an elite quarterback. I personally wouldn't take him with a first round pick. But everybody's team needs is different. You know, you got Minnesota that needs a quarterback. You have Denver that needs a quarterback. You have the Raiders that need a quarterback, and he may fit for those particular teams much better. But I don't see him as a personal fit for Washington. I just think, like I said, is them doing their due diligence, and you're going to get a lot of guys rumored to be going potential places and having these conversations, because it also plays a role in how these teams build out their draft board and what they consider to be real interest. Because some of them, they still have their relationships within teams, but they also rely on these TV networks as well to give them some insight into who's meeting with who's garnering what interest, so that they could play out all these different scenarios before the draft actually takes place, and be able to mock up the same way fans and Mel Kipers of the world mock up stuff. They're creating their own mock-ups. Like, what if this goes this way? Like, what if at number 1, Chicago ends up taking Jayden Daniels? What do we do at number 2 or number 3 if this happens? So I just think it's just a bunch of fluff, as I would say, to be on the safe side.
So one thing, Dre, just to get it right, Boomer Bust is, you're right. Tom Pelissero reported that. Of NFL Network. He said it was that he polled multiple NFL executives with connections to the Commanders at the NFL's owners meetings in Orlando. And quote unquote, he said, when I've had conversations here with executives from other teams who know Adam Peters well and who know the situation well, the most popular answer for what they do at number 2 is JJ McCarthy. That's what he said on Monday. But Dre, you got the floor.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I wouldn't be shocked. I don't expect it. I mean, I still think this is a 2-horse race between May and Jayden Daniels, but I just don't think we should just dismiss it completely, because we really don't know what what this group is going to do. I mean, everyone is kind of scrambling. Like, I mean, I think I seen a report. I cannot remember who, so don't quote me on this, but I saw a report somewhere that said no one knows what the Commanders are going to do. Like, teams behind them don't know what they're going to do. And you see them, they're putting in the work. I mean, the same thing they did with Drake May, Jayden Daniels, and Caleb Williams, meeting at all of these guys' pro days. They did the same thing with JJ McCarthy. They took him out to dinner. They met with him. So, I mean, they're doing their due diligence on all of the top prospects to the point where you can't just, 99% to 100% rule it out. So, I mean, you have to kind of, leave that door open. Again, it was shock. I mean, it would shock me to an extent, but at the same time, nothing would shock me with this group. It's just, we've been hearing these 2 names because, Caleb has just pretty much been out of the water for so long. I mean, because the Bears, obviously they're going to get him, but we've been hearing May and Daniels so much that I think fans are kind of like, man, No way. Like even the staunch Drake May stands and the staunch Jayden Daniels stands, they are in collective unison with we're gonna hate the hell out of a JJ McCarthy pick if that's the guy, because they've been everyone kind of expects it to be one of those two. And AJ's answer didn't surprise me because obviously we got our bet going. AJ says that he doesn't think that JJ McCarthy is going to be drafted within the top 15 picks in this draft. I said he's going top 5. I do think he's going top 5. I mean, I'm not going to pencil him in at number 2, but at the same time, like I said, with this group with Adam Peters and Lance Newmark and all of these guys, it really wouldn't be a huge shock to me if JJ McCarthy was the direction they went in.
Hey, so I win the bet if he don't go top 5, right?
No, the bet was first 15, AJ. Don't try to change it now.
I was just curious. I heard you say top 5.
Yeah.
So
I said he would be drafted top 5, but you said he wouldn't be top 15. So
bet. But yeah. Honestly, I wasn't even thinking about the bet when I made the comment. I think the draft really starts with Washington, right? I mean, we still really don't know what Chicago's doing, but at number 2, I think it all depends on who they end up selecting. We all know there's going to be a quarterback, but I just think that the draft really starts there. And that's when teams like the Cardinals and the Patriots have to be intrigued by who really wants to come up to go get that quarterback. Because like I've mentioned, you got Denver that needs a quarterback. You got Minnesota that needs a quarterback, and they went and got some further assets to be able to stockpile the 11th and 23rd pick to move up. You got the Denver Broncos that definitely want a quarterback. So that's where it could get a little tricky. If Drake May is sitting there, yeah, I guess we'll see what happens with the Patriots sitting at number 3, if they decide to move back or not.
Yeah, I've always said, well, probably for about a month now, I think the Patriots is the sweet spot. I don't think anybody knows what Washington or New England is going to do for that matter. Like I heard Gerard Mayo over the weekend as well. He said, now this isn't verbatim, but he said something along the lines of the best way to win the draft or something like that is to accumulate as many picks as you can. Yeah. And even in that same vein, like you would think that they can capitalize by moving back a few spots if they really feel like they can win with a different quarterback outside of Drake May or Jayden Daniels, whichever route Washington decides to go. So it's like, does somebody slide up and get a JJ? What's really the Minnesota Vikings' intentions? Because I don't think that they're going to be comfortable going into the season with Sam Darnold as their quarterback 1 with nobody to challenge him. So I don't know. Like, are they comfortable sitting in the back end of the first round? Or are they going to utilize both of their first round picks and try to move up a little bit closer? Or leverage them? I don't know how they're going to play it. So it is interesting. I don't know. Top 5 is going to be the key. I think AJ made a good point that I struggle to buy into, but it's more so I struggle because I can't visibly see it. But I do think that it can be a play from JJ McCarthy's agents or his team to get his name in the mix. And because if a team can really buy the hype, that's all they really need to get a little bit more money. So it ain't no big deal for them. Okay. Amadi, what's going on with you, player? Hope you're feeling good, bro. Where else are we at? We talked about, so Dan Quinn was speaking as well. We're transitioning from quarterbacks. I think we're good. Matter of fact, one more draft question, and then we'll get into Emmanuel Forbes. Do we think that there's a realistic opportunity for them to trade up back into the first round? We don't have tackles, bro. Like, we don't have any left tackle that we would consider starting. Granted, Adam Peters, I believe, is the one who said this weekend that he's comfortable with Trent Scott and Cornelius Lucas being a starter. One, do we even believe that? But then secondly, like, do we have enough to really like sit there and just take whoever we can at 46, 30? 36.
Yeah, it's
36 and 40. Yeah, 36 and 40. So are we comfortable there, or is there something where like because this is a tackle rich draft, so I don't know if you really need to trade up, but I do think like if somebody ends up falling, if there's like a skill position, a run at skill positions, that offensive tackle group may still be like it may be plentiful on the back end of the first round.
Well, yeah, Maul. I mean, because now I've been doing my little mock drafts, and every time I do a mock draft, which is obviously not real life and it's not going to happen, but I always see some really good tackles sitting there. One of those names is Jordan Morgan. Like I don't know if he's really going to be there, or if the NFL is going to value him higher than a computer generated mock draft. But I mean, if they do have a guy like that in mind that they like, they won't have an issue at all moving up because of the picks that we've accumulated. As a matter of fact, they came out with the official draft order today, so we definitely have 6 picks in the top 100 now. So I mean, they would not be hurting to move up, maybe if they wanted to go to 25 or 26, if there's a guy there that's falling there if they like. But again, the beautiful thing about having such a high second round pick, that's like having an additional first rounder, because a lot of those guys you thought were going to go in the first round, they're falling to that second round. And I'm about 100% sure, just as sure as I am, that we're picking a quarterback, that we're going tackle early. And to answer your question, Maul, about Adam Peters saying, Trent Scott and Cornelius Lucas, I do think he's bluffing there. I mean, I think that, because Adam Peters, I'm starting to kind of read him a bit, and he likes to give the media what he wants them to hear. Like, hey, we're good here, but he's not revealing any of his real plans in a sense. I just don't see them viewing Cornelius Lucas as a viable 17-game starting left tackle. Trent Scott, I mean, we really don't know what the hell that guy can do. I mean, he's been here a year or two now, and we as fans aren't confident in anything that, he can be a starter or anything more than, just a backup tackle. But what was interesting to me was what are they going to do with Andrew Wiley? I mean, he's still in a roster. I don't know if they view him as a starter at the right side, because, I mean, in my opinion, you need 2 starting tackles, or at least 2 starting caliber tackles. Again, I like Cornelius Lucas. I just don't know if he's a 17-game starter, So for me, I'm 100% sure that they're going tackle early. And if they are going to make a trade up, I do think it would be for tackle or somebody that's falling right there.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like they could move back into the first round, all depending on how the draft plays out. I think there's a couple positions that could be of intrigue, even beyond the tackle position. That could be tight end, Brock Bowers. That could be wide receiver, Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah, I just think it all really boils down to how this draft plays out. Even a pass rusher like a Chop Robinson. If guys start to fall a little bit because there's a run of tackles or whatever the case, I don't think. Let's say if Olu, Joe Alt, Mims from Georgia, Latham, who else? The other tackle, I feel like I'm missing.
Small dude from Arizona, Morgan. Did you call
That's
him?
Jordan
Yeah,
Morgan.
I guess so. I'm not really high on him.
And someone in the chat also mentioned Kingsley Suma too. He went to BYU, I believe. That's another good tackle prospect.
Yeah, he's solid, but I'm not moving up for him. But I'm just saying, if those guys end up being gone, before it gets to closer to the second round, I think that they could move up and still have a chance of acquiring a top tier wide receiver or a pass rusher or even that tight end, like I'm mentioning with a Brock Bowers. Because even as I've looked at the draft, I can't really position where I think Brock Bowers is going to go at this point. I think
you don't think he's going top 10?
Nah, he's not going top 10.
Who you said? Who not going top 10?
And don't try to make another bet with me either.
No, I'm not going to bet because I'm not 100% sure about that, AJ. Yeah, I don't want that bet.
But
I think Tennessee might take him. Well, now they need O-line. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't really find a spot within the top 15 that I see Brock Bowers going to. Colts, they have multiple tight ends. I mean, yeah, maybe none of them are necessarily Brock Bowers, but you still got a Jelani Woods that's pretty young. I just think the 2 most intriguing names off the top of my head for Washington could be a Brock Bowers and a Brian Thomas Jr. of intrigue that could
I
push
think
them to
I will
move
move up
into the
100%
first
for
round.
if no AJ Brock Bowers falls past top 15, I will 100% move up him easy.
Yeah,
I
I consider
don't know
it.
what this
I
person
don't.
said. Listen, analytically, you should not take a tight end that high. Analytically, you should because you're not paying them premium dollars, such as
But
what the wide
also,
receivers are getting.
but also, it's like you see. I think about stuff like that, analytic stuff. Like you can say that about running backs too, but I would take Bijan in the top 10 times out of 10. Like if he makes it to me at whatever pick I got in the top 10, like I'm not hesitating. I'm taking the Bijan Robinson. I think it depends on the player. It always depends on the player. If he's a special talent, he checks every single box. Like there's not a question mark about his game. Like you do that. Brock, I like the name sounds familiar, and I think AJ made a good pitch. I'm not trading up for him if he's like still in there between 15, 20. I'm trading up for him if he's like 22. Like if he's around at 22, like that's worth a trade up. Me personally, but I do like the idea of moving up for a tackle. I do think that that's realistic. I don't know how everything's gonna play out. I mean, of course we don't, but I think that if there is some reasonable names, and the process for them is going to be much more in depth than what we can discuss right now. So even they may even be able to stand pat at 36 and 40 and be able to take a Chop Robinson and a maybe. But my thing about JC Latham is I don't know if he's even like if JC Latham from Alabama, like I like him and I think he's a very physical player, but it's like, can he play on the left side? I'm not too sure. But I also think that he's probably one of those guys who's probably going to be around in the 20s. And I might be wrong, but that's kind of how I feel with JC Latham. He may be around. And I don't know about Jordan Morgan too much. I just started watching him. And even Mims as well. But JC is one person where I think that he's probably going to be around in the 20s. And I don't know, like that may be somebody that they may target. But if the Wiley question is still there, I can imagine Wiley's still playing one more year. So it's like I feel like they really need a left tackle, unless they switch Wiley to left tackle, which doesn't make fucking sense.
That's what I was trying to figure out. Was Adam Peters specifically just talking about all of the tackle spots in general when he mentioned Lucas to Scott, or was he just talking about left tackle? So that was, something that I was thinking about.
Luke, yeah, damn. I don't know, man. I'm not about to stress myself out right now. Let's go to Emmanuel Forbes, and I think again, like I said, I think this is probably it for us today. But we did hear something from Dan Quinn on Emmanuel Forbes. He had one interception last year, but Quinn acknowledged something. And mentioned his superpower is turning the football over. Essentially, his ball skills and his ability to return the football. Quote unquote, I did a lot of work on him coming from the draft before that. The number one thing that stood out was the ball skills and ability to go take the ball, take the ball and eliminate it. When you have that kind of rare skills and return ability, that's his superpower. That's what I think. That's what makes him so unique. We'll certainly try to accentuate that. But that's the thing that jumped out to me more than anything is that he has a rare ability to find the ball. Those quotes are interesting. I don't think it's nothing super special to take away from that, but I do think it's interesting because, like the idea in which he describes like how he wants to, flush that out of him and like make that his main thing, like weaponize it for Washington's defense is interesting. But I don't think it's too different from like why Ron Rivera drafted him. I think it'll just come down to a matter of coaching, and if he has the right people in his ear to help him, help Emmanuel Forbes. But it was one comment, and I'll get a floor to you all that was interesting as well, is that it's all about our competition. And so we want it at every single position, and it's really the central theme of what we do. I I like how he reiterated the competition aspects, especially when it came to cornerback, because I don't know what that'll mean for Emmanuel Forbes. I don't know what that'll mean with some of the people who was already here on this roster defensively or offensively. But it'll be interesting to see like how Emmanuel Forbes can overcome that first year and bounce back with some new voices, some new teaching habits, some new teaching methods, and points of emphasis with Quinn and his staff.
It's actually interesting to me. I wanted to ask you: was he asked about Forbes, or did he just bring him up? Because I didn't see this quote. Like, did he bring him up voluntarily?
So in Sports Illustrated, there was let me go to the actual article. Part of fixing the defense will get back to given his ability. Quinn said that's what he wants to do. He said this at the owners' meetings in Orlando. That's what it says. I don't know how the question. It doesn't say how the question was asked. Honestly,
no. I mean, it was just interesting to me because I mean, it's just random, I guess, to hear about Emmanuel Forbes at this point in the off season. You know, I mean, it wouldn't have surprised me so much at the press conference they asked him about him because obviously he was last year's first round pick. But it's just interesting to hear him talk about Forbes at this point. I mean, to me, like I said, I mean, I guess that's why I asked, because if it was voluntary, then that means that they have seen something in Forbes that they can work with. Because that was one of the question marks that I kind of had, you know, this offseason was, do they see something in Forbes? And, you know, how willing are they to work with him? And if they'll kind of look into drafting over him or signing, you know, someone over him. Now, with the free agent signings that we've seen so far, I mean, they've signed, I think, 3 cornerbacks, Michael Davis, the cat from the Dolphins with the long last name, and then James Pierre from the Steelers. Now, from my understanding, Pierre and the dude from the Dolphins, they're more depth reserve role guys, special teams. And then Michael Davis is the one that probably has some potential to start. So, but either way, none of those guys, I think, could really stand in the way of a Forbes if they see something in them. Like, there's a path for Forbes to still kind of have a role into this defense. So, I mean, that's interesting to me to hear, you know, Quinn say those things, because one of the things I kind of was intrigued by when we, you know, were talking about Quinn as a head coach and when he came on was, do they kind of see a Deron Bland type of role for Emmanuel Forbes? I mean, because when I looked at Bland last year, even before I knew that Dan Quinn was going to come in and be the coach, I was like, man, this is what I would love to see for Forbes. So that's what I'm kind of wondering is, you know, Dan Quinn and Joe Witt, are they kind of envisioning that type of role for Forbes? Because obviously the ball skills are there. I mean, it's the other stuff you worry about in this league with him. I mean, obviously, you know, the size and, you know, he had his issues rookie year, but a lot of people in that defense had their issues. I mean, some of them probably won't have a role next year, but Emmanuel Forbes, again, I mean, he was just in the draft. They were scouting these guys like Dan Quinn, Joe Witt, you know, they were obviously, they're not in the front office, but they still scout players. So they were looking at guys like Forbes in the draft last year. So you have to imagine that there's probably something there for him. So I'm actually interested, and that's really intriguing that you brought that quote up.
Yeah, I didn't hear the quote. I did hear a quote. They want to play more press man and be aggressive in blitzing. I mean, OTA start next week, so they'll be able to be kind of present with those players. I don't have no concerns about Emmanuel Forbes, man. If they're going to be blitzing more, there's more opportunities for him to be aggressive in his approach, defending wide receivers and getting his hand on the ball. No Diddy in regards to that. But yeah, I don't have any concern with
the diddler was the
Emmanuel
funniest
Forbes
thing out the weekend, bro.
I think it also plays into the hands of Ben St. Juice being able to play press man more than often. I would have liked to see them add a veteran such as a L'Jarius Sneed over the weekend. I felt like that deal was something that I'm quite shocked that they did not make. To pay Sneed $19 million a year and only give up, I think what the Chiefs only acquired a 4th round pick for 2025 in that trade. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not quite sure what they're going to do at cornerback overall, but the least of my concerns at this rate is Emmanuel Forbes. I feel like he's played enough football in this league. He's blessed with the opportunity to play under Dan Quinn, Joe Witt Jr., who's a DB specialist, also Jason Simmons. And those guys have been able in all their stops that they've been in the league to put guys in the best position to be able to make plays on the ball. And that's what Emmanuel Forbes' strengths are. Whether that be press man, whatever the case is, if they can attack the offense with a more aggressive approach and blitzing, there's going to be so many opportunities for errant passes and for Emmanuel Forbes to make an impact. I mean, Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs aren't shut down corners. They're also not tackling corners either, but they damn sure could catch the ball and make plays on it, and that's Emmanuel Forbes' greatest attribute that he brings to the team.
Yeah, I think if there's one thing for me to say about this cornerback position, so Eric in the chat mentioned if we drafted Gonzalez, we would not be talking about cornerback. I'm not going to bring up the Gonzalez thing, but I will say if we fast forward a year from now or a year from after drafting a cornerback in the first round last year, I think we'd be in the same position trying to figure out what our quarterback room going to look like. There is no Kendall Fuller no more. You don't even know who a solid number 2 is over here. You don't know if you have no number 2, no idea of who a number 1 is. So I think in that sense, Eric, you would have still had holes at cornerback. Now, granted, they've signed a couple this offseason, which is pretty cool. But we know that's for depth. We got to figure out who's gonna be the cream that rises for this group, because I think early on in this and I want to preface this also by saying you're not going to like that. The biggest idea or the biggest assumption that people make sometimes is like every single hole is supposed to be filled in one off season, because that's how they operate. Like we still need this, we still need that. Well, I mean, look, sometimes when you take over a team that you only kept 4 or 5 of your pending free agents, and you knew that this roster was terrible, you knew it was going to take some time, regardless of where you stood. So, I say all that to say, I don't know how this cornerback room is going to be fixed or when it will be fixed, but they have some work cut out for them in that group. Same thing with tight ends down the line, and obviously offensive line at tackle and maybe even left guard. Who knows? But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But they got some work cut out for them at a couple positions still. So I mean, even quarterback, that's the biggest one, but it is what it is. Oh, Benjamin St. Juice. Get my point. Like, folks, there's no clear number 2.
And folks forgetting Chris Gonzalez tore his ACL. So you can say if they drafted Christian Gonzalez, I mean, that boy got a torn ACL going into his second year. Like, it's just all about coaching, man. And I can't wait until the season starts, because you will be able to see the difference immediately in how the coaching staff differs from what was going on under Ron Rivera. Over the weekend, I was able to sit down and listen to John Combs' interview with Charles Leno, and he focused on a lot of the coaching. Like, he focused on the fact that, there really didn't seem to be necessarily a plan going into the season. It was just like we were just like floating every week. Like, we had no true identity. There was no set like team motto. Like, it was like every week we were changing, we were converting to be something else. And I thought that was very intriguing. A statement for a guy that had been under Ron Rivera for those years, and now, no longer a part of the team, but he still says, he spoke to a lot of people in the league that he knows, whether it be coaches and players that have vouched for Dan Quinn, and he believes that he's going to establish the right culture and identity and truly having a plan. And I think that's one of the most important things. Like, even with Adam Peters and Dan Quinn in this early beginning of their relationship and running of this organization, we clearly can see what the plan is, especially on the defensive side of the ball, is to be aggressive and have physical guys that are freakish athletes. Whereas with Ron Rivera, we didn't really know what the hell was going on. It was all over the place. Like things didn't align, whether it be a William Jackson being the signing who's a press man corner, but then you bring him in to play zone, even drafting Ben. Like Ben coming out of Minnesota was a press man corner. Now you got that man playing slot. You got Emmanuel Forbes practicing at slot corner in training camp. All these different positions. Like it's just all over the place. Like that's what I'm ecstatic for is we have a true head coach that's going to put guys in the best position to be successful.
But see, AJ, just to finish up for me on that, I just want to say, man, I agree 100%, man, because with the last regime, we just didn't know the plan. I mean, you mentioned just putting dogs out there. Like, we're seeing it. Like, we're seeing what even if none of these guys pan out, but at least we know what the vision is. The vision is, like you said, to get freak athletes out there on the field, you know, guys that play fast, guys that have a proven track record of this. We were going from, we're used to watching David Mayo and Cody Barton play on a defense. You know, I mean, these guys aren't dogs, man. I mean, so, you know, we didn't see that kind of plan with the last defensive regime or the last defensive staff, Ron in general. But now, like I said, who knows if any of this works out, but at least we see the vision and at least we have a clear-cut plan, you know, to start off. Like, we're prepared. I think we'll be prepared, to say the least.
There it is. All right, cool. So I think we're good on the Wednesday shows. I don't think we need any more pro day recap coverages. We can get back to our regularly scheduled program.
Hey, Maul, before we get out of here, I seen something on Twitter where Albert Breer. Damn, hold on, let me pull up his. Albert Breer tweeted about 30 minutes ago, Commanders coach Dan Quinn, General Manager Adam Peters, Cliff Kingsbury will meet with North Carolina quarterback Drake May tomorrow morning before May goes out and throws for the scouts at his pro day per sources. And
his pro day is tomorrow.
That's just once again more leakage to to push the Drake May conversation, because I don't know why that in particular the only team that would be mentioned. Of course, there's a bunch of teams that be at the pro
they
day.
did the same thing with Jayden Daniels too, AJ. Like we heard that Jayden Daniels, they were going out to dinner with him. So I
thought it was three teams though, wasn't it? It was like, hold on, wait.
I think we got dinner with him tonight. I think we have dinner.
Yeah, they said so. Ian Rappaport mentioned that they got dinner. Immediately following his pro day, LSU and potential top 3 pick Jayden Daniels is scheduled to meet with Patriots, Commanders, Giants, Vikings, Broncos, and Raiders, per his agent. So Ian was real specific from who it came from and also the teams that he's meeting with. I don't know about the dinner part, Dre. Like if somebody specifically said that, I don't know. I just had the Ian Rappaport.
Yeah, I saw that a couple of days ago that they said that they were going to have dinner with Jayden tonight, and then they'll go meet with Drake May and them tomorrow.
All right. Well, so maybe a team does come out and give like a few more. I mean, as a team, maybe a reporter comes out and gives some more teams, but I don't know. I don't know, man. This stuff confuses me.
Let's get to the draft. Let's get to the draft.
Yeah, man. All right. So we're back on Tuesday next week. We'll have a guest talk some draft, like widen up our horizon on these prospects. And we'll move the train forward that way. I think we'll do mock drafts for sure. We'll bring them back, but I think we got to do probably like a 3-round mock. We'll probably do like 1 or 2 of them heading into the draft. But yeah, we'll do like a 3-round mock for the game, man, for Trap or Dive. So with all that being said, appreciate everybody who's watching. Again, Drake May's prospect profile part 3 comes out tomorrow or Friday. So be on the watch for that. And then all 32 comes out Friday morning. So yeah, y'all be safe, man. Enjoy y'all weekend and enjoy the games, man. Hopefully y'all hit a 40K parlay like somebody that I was made aware of over the weekend, man. Congrats to her. I'm a little jealous, but congrats to her, man. So yeah, y'all be safe, all that good stuff. We up out of here. Peace.